Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to my review for Ratchet and Clank, which is the first big movie adaptation of a video game this year. This year is going to be chock full of them. You got Warcraft, you got Angry Birds movie, you got the Assassin's Creed movie. I'm sure there's another one here and there, but this is the first one of the year. And I was a little excited for this because Ratchet and Clank is a series that I really do enjoy. I'm not the biggest fan, but I really do enjoy those games, especially the first one, because when I was a kid, I didn't have too many games, and that was like one of the only games, including Jak and Daxter, that I got when it first came out, and I played the hell out of that game. I still have my original copy, as you can see with the thumbnail of this video, most likely. And I was really looking forward to this, even though the trailers a little iffy, and I was a little worried because it was taking so long to get made. Like, this was announced like 3 years ago. I even had a teaser trailer so you could see what the CG would look like. So at that point, obviously some stuff was already done. So it took a long time. Reviews have not been too kind with this movie, but that doesn't mean it ain't good. You know, critics could be wrong sometimes. Not this time! It really is sad to say, but you might as well just stick this on the top of the ever-growing list of crappy video game to movie adaptations. This is yet another one. Luckily, it's not as bad as some of the really bad ones like Silent Hill Revelation or House of the Dead, or, you know, just name any Uwe Boll movie that's an adaptation of a video game. There you go. It's not as bad as any of those. And it's not even as bad as stuff like Hitman Agent 47, even though I enjoyed that movie quite a bit as a terrible B film. But this movie is definitely not that. This one, I could feel the makers, which actually are Rainmaker Studios, I think, and Blockade Entertainment. I could feel them really trying here. I really do. I feel some of the love. There's even some really enjoyable little cameos from characters in the video games that don't really appear in this movie. They do, but they're not really characters. They just show up as little cameos. And even cameos for other characters in the Sony platforming universe, I guess you could say. I'm assuming it's like a universe. But I don't know why. Everything has to be a universe now, I just figure. Even the story has a little bit of nostalgic value to it. Like, I wouldn't say it's a complete retelling of the original video game story. I think it's more of a reimagining. But there's moments in this movie's story that if you played the original video game, or even if you played the game that just came out, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that part. Which is, you know, cool for the most part. So there is some love being put into this. It's not a cash grab. It's not just, whatever, we'll put these two characters in there, we'll cram a bunch of crappy jokes, and that's it. Now, they do put a lot of crappy jokes in it. But it's not just that. They do put some love into it. And even the animation. The animation for a $20 million budgeted film looks really good. There's moments where, there's a lot of stuff going on at times. There's whole cityscapes and stuff. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say amazing action scenes, but the action scenes look pretty good for the most part considering how small the budget is. Considering $5 million less made up the budget of Keanu, and that movie is all, you know, pretty simple. It's just people walking around acting like thugs. This, you know, for $5 million extra, this looks pretty good. They definitely worked hard on the animation, for sure. And also, the voice cast actually is very good in this movie. Not just because it has, major stars in it, like Paul Giamatti, John Goodman, Sylvester Stallone, Bella Thorne, Rosario Dawson, because they also got some of the actors from the actual games. I'm pretty sure the original voice actors for Ratchet and Clank, and even Dr. Nefarious, are the same voice actors in this movie. I'm pretty sure, and they all did a great job. Especially Paul Giamatti. I actually have to give him major credit because I was going into this expecting the big Hollywood cast members to not really try that much, and I thought Paul Giamatti did a damn good job as what's his name, Chairman Drek. He did a really good job, and yeah. Paul Giamatti should do way more voice acting because I think he does a damn good job. But for the most part, that's pretty much all the positives I could think of. Oh, they have a lot of the guns from the game. If you like the guns from the game, there's a couple of them that are cool in this. That's about it. That's about all the positives I got. Oh, man. Okay. Let me just say this. The humor in this movie, it's so not funny. This movie is just really unfunny. And I get it. It's a kid's film. You keep using that excuse as much as you want. That's not an excuse anymore. Especially this year where we had Zootopia, which was an excellent family film. It should be called family films. Whenever you use that excuse, I always get mad because it's not a kid's film, it's a family film. What is a family? A family is not just kids, it's family. Everybody should enjoy it. That's why they're called family films. This should be enjoyable for everybody, and Zootopia was. This, oh man, the humor is so freaking terrible in this. I don't even want to give you an example of the humor. Just watch the trailer. If you thought all those funny moments were not funny, then guess what? They're going to be really not funny in the movie when they repeat some of them over and over and over again. And then there's more. There's times where the humor, I really do feel like whoever wrote this film, I think there's actually multiple writers, I feel like they thought a lot of this humor was clever. Like the beginning joke, the first joke in the movie is so not funny, but it feels like something that was written down and thought of as original. There's a Wilhelm scream joke, of course that scream you hear in every movie, that is kind of funny, but that's about it. Every other joke fails completely. Every other joke. It's so not funny. You know, maybe a chuckle here and there, like, heh. But nothing else is funny, and that's really sad, because Ratchet & Clank is a really funny video game series for the most part. At least the first few games. I didn't play a lot of the more recent ones, but like the first three and Deadlocked, I remember really thinking those were really funny games. And this one, it's just not a funny movie at all. There's nothing, and there's so much comedy in this film. There's so many times where it wants you to laugh, and it's just not really funny at all. The dialogue is really bland. It's all kids style humor. A lot of the side characters fall completely flat. So many of them in the background just like doing funny things. Like there's one character that's supposed to be like a super fan of Ratchet and Captain Quark, and he's just like, it's not funny at all. There's times where like some of the little minions are actually, I feel like some of them are actually supposed to be kind of like the minions from the movie Minions or Despicable Me, where they're just doing funny things in the background and making faces and slapping each other around or something. And I'm just like, come on, it's so not funny, and that shtick is so old at this point. I really did not like the humor. I didn't really like anything else in the movie. I also didn't like that it's called Ratchet and Clank, and the main focus is not Ratchet and Clank or their relationship. That's another thing. The character development is pretty much nada, zilch. It's like the movie wanted you to play the games before it, and it didn't want to spend any time developing these characters. The pacing is so frantic in this movie. It really does not have any time to let characters be characters. It has a lot of time for stupid sight gags and unfunny jokes, but it doesn't have time just to sit down and let Ratchet and Clank build a relationship. There's none of that. There's supposed to be moments where you're like, oh, you feel the budding relationship between this Wombax, whatever the hell that is, or Lombax, sorry, and this robot, and you never feel it. In the games, you do. You do, because you have so many hours to feel that. But in this movie, they could have easily done that by giving, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes of screen time with these two together just being friends. You don't really get that. There's moments where they talk to each other and like, oh yeah, that's right, it's about those two. And then Captain Quark, the main focus of this movie, comes in and says something like, oh, I'm the greatest. And I hate that he's the main focus of this movie. I really do, because he's an annoying character. In the games, I can tolerate him. I actually can. Because I know after I'm done listening to him, I get to go and shoot around with guns. In this movie, I know it's going to be, alright, joke with him, okay, maybe some really bland and boring action, which the action is just, wow, really bad in this. And then it's just more boring and unfunny and terrible dialogue and, you know, some nice animation, and some decent voice acting, but, you know, it's just, there's nothing to it. I feel like there's no heart to the movie. I felt like there was love being put into the film, but I never ever got any heart for any of the characters. I never felt anything about anybody in this movie. And for people that are saying this movie's good, I don't get it. Is it because you love the games so much? Take away those games. Just don't even think about them for a second. Think about this movie as its own thing, as its own movie. Could you possibly tell me, is there any way you could tell me that these characters are endearing? They're not. They're barely in the movie. Ratchet and Clank are not the focus of the movies. There's like a good 10-minute sequence where you don't see them at all. I'm like, for a 90-minute movie called Ratchet and Clank, for 10 minutes of them just not being there at all? What? And it doesn't, I mean, it would really help if the side characters were likable or, funny or whatever, but they're not. It's just a bad movie. It really is. Ratchet and Clank is a bad movie. It's not something I'm going to get really pissed about. And, a few months from now when I'm doing my top 10 worst or top 20 worst, I'm not going to put it on my top 10 or whatever. Maybe my top 20. We'll see. But it's not a absolutely awful movie. It's just it's nothing. You leave the theater going, I guess that was a movie. It was a series of images to make the illusion of motion. That's about it. So anyway, I'm going to give this movie, I'm going to give it a 16 out of 40. I really didn't like it. It was just it was kind of soul crushing. It was just like, come on, man. Make it about these characters that I liked when I was a kid. Don't make it about everybody else and have so many unfunny jokes and just... There you go. That's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and until next time, goodbye.